Hello and welcome to another Multi-Movie Monday. And this one, I have to say, my friends... Sorry about that. And this one, I have to say, my friends, is the Pacino Perfect Day. This will be reviewing Al Pacino's best of two movies that he had done. In case for those of you unaware, I also did this in my first upload for October video. This is a new series that I'm doing called Multi-Movie Monday, where I'm going to take a look at two movies that share a similar scene, for example, like same director, based on the same purpose, maybe it might have a similar story. Either way, it's something that is shared between the two movies, and it works. So today we're going to take a look at two Al Pacino movies, and I'm just going to give a quick feedback on the movie, and then my personal opinion towards the movie. And the first one that we're going to start off with is probably one of Pacino's earliest films, and that is Dog Day Afternoon. And despite the name, it's not exactly what you think it is. The movie is inspired by a real bank heist that actually did happen. The movie stars Al Pacino as a man named Sonny. Sonny what? I don't know. But he just stars as a man named Sonny who starts going in to try and rob a bank. But as you'd expect, the bank heist at first seems to be going well for Sonny and his pal Sal. But eventually, everything starts to take a wrong turn, especially when things don't go the way that they intended or planned. Sadly to say, there wasn't that much money in the bank vault as such as they wanted, and also that they start causing problems that attract more unwanted attention that they never wanted to have in the first place. And to be fair, it's a pretty decent bank heist film, but not my favorite. Nothing against Al Pacino, he's actually pretty amazing in the film, but what has got to be said is that it's not the best film I've seen. It's quite frankly kind of boring for the most part, because eventually, from what going on to become a 10-minute robbery, becomes an 8-minute process between the police and Pacino himself. And I gotta admit, Pacino and the other actors in this are great, and they do a really good job. But to say, the story is still, well, pretty boring for the most part. I think the most interesting part about this movie is the fact that it's actually based on a true event that happened in 1972. And the actors are pretty much trying to do a one-for-one shot of what happened that day, the trouble that they went through, the struggle that they were thinking of, and including trying to do a regular robbery, but then it turns out it went to complete crap. Al Pacino is no worse in this. He actually does it all, and he gives a pretty good A game, including Charles Duran, who does the detective known as Moretti. So it's a pretty good story, but for me it just feels boring, and here's a few reasons why. Despite this movie only being an hour and 39 minutes long, or basically 2 hours long, it feels longer than that, and that's because the story is really stretched out with a lot of padding that's happening behind the scenes. There are some good moments though, like all the actors just hanging out together and trying to do the right thing, and by calling their family members and whatnot. So Pacino treats them with respect, but at the same time, it's still not a very good movie, despite some good scenes that end up happening in it. Things begin to take a turn for the worse when health problems start interfering, including Sonny himself having some problems as well, including one of his partners named Leon, who actually ends up confronting with the police and turning against him. Yeah, Pacino is actually a gay man that's actually married to a woman and has children. I didn't write the script, it just turns out that was the whole thing that was happening. I think what really does save this movie is Pacino's performance as Sonny. He really gives the character everything that he got, and he really makes it his own. Really showing you a character that, well, you want to care about. And for me, I did actually care about Sonny. The problem is that the rest of the film for me is pretty boring. To be fair, I don't hate bank heist movies, as long as they have a good story, but for this one it has a pretty decent story, but however there was just so much padding and a lot of things happening, it was hard for me to keep focused on what was officially going on in this movie. I would check it out if you want the chance to see it, but rather than that, it's still pretty boring. And without spoiling this movie, even though yes, it is a pretty old movie, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but let's just say that intentionally the plans that Sonny and Sal intended on ended up going very south and very quickly. Again, nothing against Pacino in this film at all, but Dog Day Afternoon doesn't really feel like it's meanwhile or anything to me. I just don't see it as a good film. I know that there's some other people out there who probably would criticize me for not liking it, but I really didn't. I was losing focus a lot more than I like to admit with this film. And though while I was listening and trying to pay attention as best I could, this was still not really the movie for me. But we're going to move from one of his earliest works into probably one of his most infamous works, and that is with Scarface. So can Tony Montoya end up saving the day for me? Well, let's find out. Oops, sorry. Scarface tells the story of a man named Tony Montoya, played by Al Pacino himself, who ends up joining into, well, the drug mafia, and he becomes one of the most infamous drug lords on the planet. This film is infamous for what it set up, including Al Pacino's career that would eventually become immortalized in the face of history and cinema everywhere. And Tony Montoya is actually a very interesting character, but he does have some flaws himself. He's not exactly perfect as he wants to be. He ends up joining Lopez, played by Robert Loggia, and he actually makes a name for himself. But it's not long before Tony Montoya eventually, well, screws everybody over. In fact, Montoya actually goes to Bolivia himself to meet with one of Lopez's partners, and it turns out that he actually agrees to do work with him and screw Lopez over, meaning that he is not a dumb man and he knows what business is what in this in this circumstance. The movie gets the point across rather quickly that the drug mafia or drug lords are not a thing to be messed with, and this film really goes to show you in why this is a dangerous profession for those that are involved in it. And definitely for Montoya, you get to see his downfall pretty quickly, but also the downfall takes its time. See, he becomes a pretty well-known drug lord from the get-go, taking his time, making his deals, and gathering up money from everywhere that he can, and becomes a pretty successful businessman. But it's not long before the money and the drug itself begin to take him over. So we do eventually get to see the downfall of Tony Montoya. And to be honest, it's a really damn good downfall that he does. It's not fast, it does take its time, and besides, this movie is almost 3 hours long, so be that as it may, it is a pretty good downfall of a pretty traumatic character, all things considering. If you're going to watch Scarface, I must make this point clear that you need to watch it with time being, because this is almost a 3 hour long movie, and you will have to try to pay attention to everything that you can that goes on in this film. For being as it may 3 hours long, it does take its time to get going, and once it does, it's a pretty good thrill ride. But again, just keep in mind what I said. It's still a 3 hour long movie, and it does take its time, so if you're not used to slow paced movie, this one will hand to give you down. So, how do I feel about Scarface? It's a lot better than Dog Day Afternoon. Sadly, that's not by much. It's still a decent movie, and it does get its action going pretty quickly towards the end of it, basically to make up for all the boring nonsense. But however, instead of for being a most quotable film, a very good film with a positive director and really great story, it's still just a decent story, at least for me at least. But it does, again, have a great actor with Al Pacino who really does give it all and make Tony Montoya the character that he always wanted. So for me, while I wouldn't give Scarface my highest of highest recommendations, I still would recommend it for people, even if they're diehard Al Pacino fans, or if they just want to see a really good movie. I recommend Scarface, but Dog Day Afternoon, not so much. And well, my friends, that was Pacino Perfect Day. And again, I'm just going to give a few feedbacks on it. Dog Day Afternoon, while I think does have a great character development of Sonny, it's not, for me, a very good film. I mean, it is a bank heist movie, and I can't say nothing against it for being a bank heist film. But I guess maybe it wasn't made for me. I've heard a lot of good things about this movie. That's why I wanted to check it out so badly. But to be fair, it's just not for me. Oh, it does have a pretty good story with a great director involved in it, and it's actually based on a real life event that happened in 1972. But this for me just is, well, not really for me. But however, with Scarface, I can say, while it's a long film, and I did get bored with it a few times, it's still a damn good movie that Al Pacino made the character into what he is today, and probably will live on forever in the infamy of cinema. So again, I would really recommend Scarface, just as long as you have 3 hours to waste, is all I'm saying. And I really would recommend Dog Day Afternoon, but only if you're just really interested in watching it. So that is it for Pacino Perfect Day. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join me at Twitter with the link in the description down below. Next Monday, we're getting into some good old-fashioned high school romance. We're gonna do a Get the Girl Day by reviewing 2 sex comedies, and 1 is an anime. And and though they're not completely the same thing, they do follow a pretty similar theme. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you next Monday for the next Multi-Movie Monday. And remember, it's always going to be Monday somewhere, and it's always time for movies. So until next time.